Without further ado, Shelley Brown, please take the mic.
Good evening. My name is Rena Camara, and I'm happy that Shelley Brown is meeting some of you for the first time tonight from my restaurant, Mastro's. I and my husband are longtime Liberals. Before the pandemic, every month, both the provincial and federal Liberals would hold their meetings here. And I look forward to having them back, and I very much look forward to having Shelley Brown as our candidate and our next MPP. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Salma Raymond Kachorik, and I worked for the previous Liberal MPP, Monty Quinter. I am pleased that Monty Quinter is supporting Shelley for this nomination, and I'm thrilled to be part of Shelley Brown's campaign. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mitch Lipton. I've known Shelley Brown for more than half my life, as a friend, as a family member, and as a community leader. I've had the pleasure for these last several months walking with Shelley door to door and meeting the wonderful people in New York Center. I know Shelley would be a fantastic MPP. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ashley. Shelley Brown is my dad. He's been a loving and attentive father and grandfather to my kids and nieces and nephews. Beyond his family, my dad has always cared about the well-being of others. As an employment lawyer, he fought for those who were treated unfairly by their employer. And when I was growing up, he taught me about social justice and human rights. As passionate as he has always been about these things, I've never seen him more dedicated to anything than he's been to this campaign and the people of York Center. So on behalf of my family, my mom, Dr. Vivian Brown, my brother Jared, our spouses, and our children, I ask that you please vote for my dad, Shelley Brown.
Hi, I'm Rachel Karstadt. Firstly, tonight, I'd like to acknowledge that North York, the land that we live, work, learn, and grow on, is the traditional lands of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. I also would like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I have the pleasure of introducing Shelley Brown, who I hope will be our next Liberal candidate for York Center. My family has actively been involved in the Liberal Party for as long as I can remember, and I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to become involved with Shelley's campaign. My husband and I live in York Center, so the candidate who runs in this riding is important and personal. They are the person who I hope will represent this diverse and vibrant riding at Queen's Park. I did my research and talked with people I respect and trust, and I learned that there really was only one choice, Shelley Brown. Shelley has had a long career as a human rights lawyer, as a charitable leader, and he is a loving, supportive husband, father, and grandfather. He brings the qualities we need to win the next provincial election in York Center. Now, I am pleased to introduce the best choice to be our Liberal candidate, Shelley Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, and all of you for your kind words. You've been amazing on the campaign trail, and thank you for being part of Team Shelley. Thanks also to Lawrence, to the Ontario Liberal Party, and to Steve Del Duca, whose leadership and insights have been invaluable. Finally, and most importantly, I want to thank my wife, Dr. Vivian Brown, the source of all that is good in my life. She's been my partner and my strength for the last 45 years. She's an internationally renowned doctor, a passionate crusader for women's health issues, and an extraordinary mother and grandmother. Quite frankly, I don't know how she does it all. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an employment and human rights lawyer. Throughout my 36-year career, I have represented the marginalized and the voiceless. I take pride in having created the first ethics office in a Canadian insurance company, protecting women, people of color, those in the LGBTQ community, and people of varied ethnic backgrounds from harassment and discrimination. If you want to know more, visit my website, shelleyforyorkcenter.ca. Since I started this campaign 16 months ago, I've had the privilege of meeting and listening to people of every religious, ethnic, and economic background. It has been a pleasure to listen to your stories and to hear your dreams, your joys, your fears, your needs, and your hopes. It's also been a gastronomic feast. Our team has enjoyed lunches at Times Square Diner and Peter G's and at Mastro's Ristorante, a true icon of fine Italian dining. We have compared bagels at Kiva's, Bagel Plus, and Bagel World. On Takeout Tuesdays, we visited FV Foods and Wilson's Home of Lechon. Canvassing with MP Yara Sachs also included great food at California Sandwiches on Shepherd. I met so many people on events from Pumpkin Fest at Downsview Park to the drag shows on Codsall, to the neighborhood cleanups led by Bathurst Manor Action Group founder Michael Anthony. I've made thousands of calls and knocked on thousands of doors, following the protocols, masked, socially distanced, and fully vaxxed. I've heard so many stories from our neighbors with recurring themes, which have shown that the last few years have not been fine for Ontario and for York Centre. These were stories about your struggles with COVID and the impact it had on your lives, and not just financially. Many were frontline workers who literally risked their lives so that we could live ours. I spoke to doctors, nurses, PSWs, store clerks, and truckers, those who finally were seen as the backbone of our community, but too often the unprotected, underpaid, and overworked backbone. Despite the miracle of vaccines becoming available, the government let us down time and time again. We need a Del Duca. Instead, we have a Ford, and this Ford is a lemon. You can't imagine how many people voice their concerns about affordable housing and healthcare, about rent and house prices rising out of range for them and their children. Now, inflation is making food and other basics more expensive. No one should have to choose between feeding a child and buying their child's medication. My friends will tell you that I live by the belief that it is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. Education is that light. It's an investment in our future, but there are still those who cannot light that candle because of lack of financial resources. What a waste. We cannot let that continue. In York Centre, we face issues which are both common across Ontario and unique to our community. It will require that politicians at every level, local leaders and community activists work together to improve things. I will use all the skills that I've learned during my career to work with every stakeholder to address our local issues, from inadequate transit to ever-increasing traffic congestion, from the needs of our education system to the gaps in long-term care. We are all working hard. As a candidate and as an MPP, the biggest job that I will have is to help build an environment where the hard work pays off, making things better for us all, for our families and for our communities. We need to revitalize our Liberal presence in York Centre. We must work hard to reintroduce ourselves to every resident. We still have to raise well over $100,000 to fight and win the next provincial election. We need both new and experienced Liberals to work together to make sure Doug Ford is a one-term premier. By the way, allow me to take one moment to mention some of the distinguished MPs and MPPs who have served York Centre in the past, such as Michael Levitt, Ken Dryden, Art Eggleton, Bob Kaplan, and of course, our venerated Monty Quinter, who represented our riding for 33 years. These people were and still are a true integral part of our community, yet none lived in the riding. If someone tells you that an MPP must live in the riding, that it gives them some special knowledge, special sensitivity, or understanding, ignore them. It's an insult to your intelligence and to your awareness. So, you all have things to do and lives to live. Let me finish up and let you go back to them. We live in Ontario, the best place in the world. It is our duty to work together, and not only to keep it that way, but to make it better. It is our responsibility to stop the bad ideas and sloppy management of the Doug Ford government. You can take the first step this Thursday, December 16th, from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. when you choose the next provincial Liberal candidate for York Centre. Someone who can and will do the hard work needed to win the provincial election. I am that person. In 3 days, get on your computer or pick up your phone and make the right choice. Choose me, Shelley Brown, as your next Ontario Liberal candidate for York Centre. I promise not to let you down. Thank you for your time and for your patience. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Shelley.